Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of central Iowa, welcome to Max World Live. Max World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Max World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Max World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, good afternoon. 6 minutes after the hour on the 26th day of January. We are 6 days and counting from the Iowa caucus, and when I want to know something, I go to somebody who's smart, like Bob Montserrat or Chris Roloff, even Frank Thomas. But today I want to learn a little bit about what's going on with Medicaid, which is the thing that's going on with Branstad right now. And I'll be honest with you, I don't understand it well enough to explain it to you. So Ed Brown, CEO of the Iowa Clinic, is here. He's also going to maybe help me understand a little bit more about candidates and what's going on. And so we welcome Ed, you to the program.
It's good to be back, man.
I know you always come in with Tom, but Tom, what do you have, a speaking engagement today or something?
He had some other commitment, and he just sort of wimped out on us.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the deal?
What commitment could be greater than you and I and Bob and Frank? I don't, Well, Craig Robinson from the Iowa Republican will be on next Tuesday, because next Tuesday, obviously, we'll be sorting through what has happened in the Iowa caucuses. And I bet you've got friends from around the country who have been watching the election or the campaign through the eyes of Iowa.
Oh, absolutely. And, I get asked all the time about this. If I'm on a conference call, weigh in and tell us what your view of things are. And I don't know that Iowans fully appreciate it. It's not just the eyes of the country, it's the eyes of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, listen to this. So today I get a phone call from Swiss TV. And that's not a cable channel where they talk about cheese. This is the official television station of Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And they want to come in and interview me as an evangelical about what I'm thinking about the caucuses and my thought on the election.
Absolutely. They know that 40% of the voters, at least historically in the caucus, have an evangelical bent. And we're going to have a big influence on how this all turns out.
Yeah, but the problem is we're wrong. We're always wrong. I mean, last year it was Santorum. He didn't go anywhere. And I may not be able to go back directly, but McCain, he didn't go anywhere. Romney didn't go anywhere. Pat Robertson didn't go anywhere. Bob Dole didn't go anywhere.
Well, the caucus is a weeding out process. It doesn't mean that we always have to be right, but those people that have the ability to weather it and move on to the next stage, they've been partially vetted. That doesn't mean that the rest of the country is going to be on the same page that we are. Our demographics are unique. Our points of view will be unique.
Yep.
But I will certainly attest, and I think people know that values matter in Iowa, and the candidates have to demonstrate that and talk to that. There's probably very few places where that rises to the top as much as it does in Iowa.
Well, and it's interesting, and I don't know how in-depth you want to go or you can go, so please don't say anything that you're uncomfortable with. And the opinions of J. Michael McCoy, Bob Montserrat, and Frank are not those of Ed Brown or anybody at the Iowa Clinic or anybody else. They're just ours. But you talk about how values rise to the top. We've seen that with one specific candidate in Donald Trump. We have seen his values, which I was excited about in the beginning. I'll admit it. I thought, I'm a businessman. Now we're going to get somebody who understands bottom lines and budgets, and he's talked about ideas, how to get the national debt down, and et cetera, et cetera. But his values keep rising to the top, and they're not my values.
Well, I think he's a showman.
Oh, absolutely.
And that showman behavior comes out. He has he's a little bit flippant and commercial with his answers whenever he responds. That he looks sometimes for headlines and just in how he approaches people. He's very aggressive, and that I'm a little bit surprised that the folks in Iowa have not responded to that in maybe a little bit more of a retribution type manner, because he continues to hold on tight to those that support him. But I think when you look at those people who are supporting him, it is disproportionately made up of people who have been disenfranchised and not engaged. The unengaged voter may have a bearing on this election like it's never had before.
Yeah, and that would include people of all parties.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not just a Republican or a Democrat or even an independent thing. He is right now, and I'm not a Twitter person. I am a Facebook person, but I'm not a Twitter person. Do you think I could say anything in 140 characters or less? But I understand, and maybe Chris can come in and explain it to us, because I know he's following it. Donald Trump and Bob Vander Plaats is kind of in a match right now on Twitter. Donald has accused him of some things, and if I understand the story correctly, a reporter from the Des Moines Register has jumped in and said, "No, Bob's right, Donald. That is what happened." And so anyway,
I think Trump has a way of interpreting things only his language understands.
Only his language. And what is his language? I don't know what his language is.
Still trying to figure that out.
All right, so you got to talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. In fact, I need to get a piece of paper out here so I can take notes. So Terry Branstad is doing something with Medicaid. What is he doing with it?
You know, he gets accused of the term privatizing Medicaid. I think that's a little bit too strong. He's not privatizing. What he is doing is he is putting out the management of the Medicaid benefits out to public companies, private companies, each of them under a fixed contract to try to better manage the conditions of the Medicaid beneficiary and to overall, through incentive, reduce the cost of care.
All right. Who managed it before?
It was managed by the state, with the exception of the mental health program.
All right. So the management was done by the state. And what was that organization called, or that department, or was that just...
This Department of Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services. All right. And why did he want to do that?
Well, the cost of Medicaid was growing so rampantly, and the support or lack thereof that was going to be coming from the federal government to continue to keep up with it.
Because of Obamacare?
Some of it because of Obamacare being put back on the state, that they had to do something to curtail the cost, or it was going to consume, it would eventually consume the entire state budget.
Ed Brown is here. He's CEO of the Iowa Clinic. By the way, I really don't, and I know you won't, but I don't need any bias here. I'm not trying to blame this on Obama or the Democrat. I just want to understand it. So the Affordable Care Act is what we should call it, right? If you're just
sure
for this, all right, I'm going to call it the Affordable Care Act. Affordable Care Act. ACA, because I just don't want to sound biased. I just want to understand. All right, so because of the ACA, tell me if I don't want to put any words in your mouth. Because of the ACA, the cost of managing Medicare for Iowans within
Medicaid for Iowans.
Medicaid. I'm sorry. So it just got too expensive for the state to do it.
It increased the eligibility of those individuals who are going to be available for Medicaid benefits. The Affordable Care Act provided for that. In the beginning, it would be providing additional federal revenues for that transition to occur. Those federal revenues would eventually reach a cap, and as a consequence of that, future financial liabilities would begin to shift over to the state. As those future liabilities begin to shift over to the state, and the curve of the increased cost of medical care for Medicaid beneficiaries, you put those two things together, and we were going to be in a financial pinch.
And so how can the state how can a private company manage it more cost effective than the state? Or is that the dumbest question I've ever asked?
No, not at all. This is new to Iowa, but 35 other states around the United States have their Medicaid programs managed by companies similar to the ones who won the bid process here in Iowa. So they're not foreign to it. Do they, just like any company, do they have their problems? Do they have things they could do better, or maybe that they don't do right occasionally? Absolutely. I think this entire program had to occur because when the administration here in Iowa, and not just under the current governor, but governors before, they came to the providers and they said, hey, help us reduce the cost of care. Help us figure out a way to control these costs better. What was really going on is they would cap the level they paid us, but the utilization continued to go up. And we weren't really curtailing the costs.
All right, so we have to take our first break. But does that mean that the quality of care went down because the hospitals weren't reimbursed as much as it was costing them to take care of them?
I don't know if the quality of care went down because those people who needed emergency care always got it.
Okay. All right, Ed Brown is here. He's the CEO of the Iowa Clinics, and we're talking to him about what's going on with Medicaid and the governor. And I hope I'm understanding it a little better, and I hope you are too. Your questions are welcome, 244-0077, or the text line at 809-0993. It's your voice I want to hear.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, good afternoon. 21 minutes after 4 o'clock on the 26th day of January in the year 2016. An election year. You already knew that because you live in Iowa, or you know we're in Iowa. The CEO of the Iowa Clinic, Mr. Ed Brown, is in today, talking to me like I'm a 6-year-old because I've asked him to. It's tough because you got to go down real low. But I just don't understand this Medicaid thing with the governor and the Affordable Care Act. And I'm trying not to make this bias. I'm trying not to blame it on quote-unquote Obamacare or the governor's doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm just trying to understand it. But, Bob, you brought up, for us 6-year-olds in the room, you brought up a very good point.
Yeah, the point for me that I was bringing up was basically that I think sometimes we get confused between Medicare and Medicaid. And I was saying that next year I will have to go on Medicare. Well, I will, because my state insurance will be ending. And so, and I'm assuming that everyone must, when they get to age 65, sign up for Medicare. Isn't that correct?
Well, you're fortunate enough you're going to be eligible for full Medicare benefits at age 65. I get the privilege of waiting until 67.
Oh, they've changed that then.
Yeah, they've, you know, at certain age groups it goes up, and I think right now the high water mark is 67. My prediction is because we're all living longer, it'll continue to go up.
Okay, and so I realize that, and so Medicaid is different, even though we pay for it during our working years, correct? Medicaid and Medicare.
Yeah, we have dollars taken out of our paycheck every month or every 2 weeks, and just like Social Security, and that goes into the federal coffers to help support Medicare, Medicaid, and certainly your Social Security benefits. But, you know, the difference between the two, really coming down to it's quite simple, is Medicaid was a program put in place for those who are underserved, you know, at the poverty level or a little bit above the poverty level, to allow them to have some form of coverage in the event that they had a need for medical care.
That's Medicare.
That's Medicaid.
Oh, that's what we're talking about here. Okay.
And Medicare is for those people who reach the age of 65 or 67, depending on their year of eligibility, and to provide access for health care benefits for those people in that category. 2 different categories. And, well, what if you qualify for both? What if you're below the poverty level and you also provide for Medicare? And there are some people that fall into that category.
Do you know what that poverty level amount is at this time?
You know, I think, I apologize. I don't recall exactly what it is, but no, I don't want to guess at that.
Okay.
But it's based on the federal poverty level.
Frank, do you have a question?
Yeah, Ed, I've heard that 50% of current practicing doctors right now are likely to retire in the next 5 years. The ones who are practicing may go into more specialty boutique medicine as opposed to general MD stuff. Is the picture for our medical care bleak, or in your opinion, is it rosy? What's your opinion of our doctor situation coming up? Because apparently doctors aren't being reimbursed like they should be for the Medicare and Medicaid they're taking now. They're refusing to take more because they're not getting compensated for what they're doing now. What's the picture like here in a couple of years?
Well, it's certainly going to change dramatically. And yes, we have a disproportionate number of physicians who will be retiring in the next 10 years. Whether it's 50% or not, I can't say that for sure. It depends on the part of the country. But there's no doubt the need for additional physician and medical support is going to outstrip what we have available. And the thing that becomes a little bit of the unknown is there are new things on the horizon that may alter how we get our health care. And I'm looking at my iPhone right now, and I can see a day where people will get basic healthcare doctor's office visit by a video engagement with a healthcare provider on one of these.
Really?
And I think it's happening now, isn't it? I've heard. I've seen
it
some
is
of those.
happening now. We offer that at the Iowa Clinic, and there's another organization in town doing the same. University of Iowa is doing that. It's very limited in scope, for colds and certain defined problems that you might have wrong with you, but they can certainly take care of the younger population to a significant degree. They can take care of some of the senior population. But what that will do is that will provide elasticity in the system so that our seniors, who require more time to be seen because they have more problems, chronic conditions, things of that nature, to make room and appointments for them to be taken care of. I don't know how much elasticity those new technologies are going to create. I don't think anybody does. I also don't know for sure how much of that elasticity will be a covered benefit. There is a growing theory out there that the government cannot continue to keep up with the rising cost of care, and that there will be a move towards consumerism. And that consumerism will come through things like this, and maybe this costs $35 for that visit. And for somebody, let's say we're here in Des Moines, somebody who's up in Fort Dodge who doesn't want to travel to Des Moines for a visit, be well worth their money.
Right. I did look up poverty levels in the U.S. They have 2014. I just wanted to call it out. But persons in household, if it's one person, it's 11,670. Two people, 15,730. Three people, 19,790, and four people, 23,850.
There's a multiplier on top of that for Medicaid. Don't know what the multiplier is. It's like 1 point something, 1.2, 1.4, something like that. But you get the idea. That's not nearly enough to turn around and sustain a family or an individual.
Now, to your knowledge, would these individuals that were at poverty level, they'd still be required to get into the Affordable Care Act? And
that's what the Affordable Care Act was intended to do. Now, I know we have tax incentives or disincentives, try to get everybody to sign up for coverage. That doesn't always occur, though. And we don't have the healthcare police out there. But we get people signed up, and we can get them signed up quickly if they come in and they have not signed up. And that happens all the time.
Ed Brown, CEO of the Iowa Clinic, is here with us today, just helping us understand the Medicaid, Medicare situation with the governor. So is what the governor's doing the best for Iowans?
I think it's the financially prudent thing to do while maintaining a quality health care program as it is today. Turning over our health care benefits to a third party will always create anxiety. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're saying, Medicaid organization, we want you to manage this group of beneficiaries. You contract with all the providers in the state and make sure that the benefits that we offer out there are being managed in the most cost-effective way. And you will be incentivized that if the care is managed more efficiently, we'll let you share in some of that savings, and at a modest amount. They just don't get to walk away with the bank.
Wouldn't you say, though, that insurance companies are probably better than any government running programs? I mean, in general?
I would say yes. They probably offer better technologies and other systems in place, and certainly the three that have been selected have a track record of working in other states. What I ideally would like to see is that the providers out there in our communities would develop the technologies themselves, whether it be the large health systems or other networks. They would invest in those systems that someday maybe we don't have to have the middle person in there, and the providers could use those dollars to turn around and provide a higher level beneficiary benefit.
Aren't there some hospitals that are experimenting with their own
Absolutely.
health plans that people could buy into just through the hospitals?
They're working in that direction. We don't have that in Iowa yet. We certainly see it to our friends to the north up in Minnesota. But it's a learning curve. There's a reason they call it insurance risk. So you need to learn what you're doing first before you just jump in.
Right, because there are always going to be people that could abuse the system.
Yes, there are.
And so there have to be things put in place to prevent that.
Yeah, and you need to protect the coverage of those people who are getting their insurance. There needs to be certain reserves as required by the state. The healthcare providers themselves need to have the adequate systems to make sure they know what they're doing.
If the Affordable Care Act had not passed and it was not the law, would this be the prudent thing for us to do?
I think there would have been an initiative to try to curtail the growing cost of Medicaid here in the state of Iowa. That's been a problem for some period of time, and it was outstripping, the growth of Medicaid was way outstripping what the normal inflationary rate was.
Is that because there are more people taking advantage of it? No, wait, I'm sorry, back up. Is that because there are more patients needing it or more people taking advantage, and I mean in a bad way, of it?
I would say there was more people needing it, plus there weren't incentives to try to reduce the cost of care by onto the providers themselves. For instance, let's say you went into a nursing home and you had 21 days worth of benefits into that nursing home. They would keep you a full 21 days, not 16 days, but 21 days. Things like that. Now, there may be a need for someone to stay 21 days. There's no problem with that whatsoever. But if you really are in a state of health that you could be discharged at 16, well, why wouldn't we do that?
Right.
Basically, the system was set up that if you use it, you get paid, and the providers that were being paid by that system said, well, if you want it, sure, we'll take care of you. And there wasn't a lot of disincentive either way there.
What if the insurance said 21 days and the patient needed 31 days?
Then that's where the flaw is in the system. There needs to be exceptions for those, extreme cases.
And who determines that exception? Is that the ACA? Is that the state? Is that who?
Certainly the physician and the state both are involved in that.
All right, Ed Brown, CEO of the Iowa Clinic, in today, talking a little bit about Medicaid and Medicare, helping us understand. Do you understand? Well, you already did understand it, didn't you, Bob?
Well, no. I'm learning.
Are you learning? Okay, well, we'll have you ask some questions. If you've got any questions for Ed Brown, here's the number you can text. It's the Service Legends Truth text line at 809-0993. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat and the text, is watching his laptop right now to see if you've got a question. You can also call in at 515-244-0077. And in just a little bit, Chris Roloff in, and the Twitter battle between Bob Vanderplatz and Donald Trump. It's heating up. We'll tell you about it here, live on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, It's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 22 minutes before the top of the hour. This is our last segment with Ed Brown. He's the CEO of the Iowa Clinics. And I always appreciate you coming in. You
always enjoy it, Mac.
Well, you not only know what you're talking about, at least from my standpoint, but you are able to say it to me, as I say, talk like a 6-year-old. Because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm a good speaker, and God gave me this great voice, and I love people, but I don't absorb knowledge very well.
Well, this healthcare business is complicated, and no one should turn around and feel foolish because they don't understand it. It's hard to keep up with, even for those of us in the business. And frankly, there's new acronyms and all sorts of things being tossed around and put out there every minute. So there's no way anyone could be expected in the lay public to keep up with it.
Yeah. Well, we've got 6 days, and the Iowa caucuses are coming. And I don't know about you, but I'm so happy. I'm just happy. I'm going to do a Snoopy dance. Remember Snoopy, how he danced and he's put his head up in the air and his ears?
It's over.
It's over. And I love the money, the millions and millions and millions of dollars.
When you're done, I've got a text.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Okay, this
is the Service Legends Truth Text line. We're brand new here at the station, 809-0993. You can text in anything you want.
It says, my wife works in the hospital as an occupational therapist. She frequently sees people being discharged before they're ready just because insurance coverage ran out. Can you ask your guest to comment on that?
That is not uncommon. What people... in that situation, the benefit levels are only to a certain fixed level, and what they try to do is discharge those patients to an outpatient service. They may or may not be ready for that. That does occur on occasion. It can be very frustrating for the providers. I think one of the things that the system could use some improvement on is, well, what is the mark where the person's health is being compromised by discharging them from their health care before they're ready, and is there a backup system in place or a transitional system in place for them to do that? What we're seeing nowadays is, well, we may discharge them, they won't stay in the hospital, but maybe we'll give them to a transitional form of care like
swing bed
type thing, a nursing home. But that's not, that's not the acute care setting.
It seems, though, and maybe I'm just paying attention to it because I'm going to be 57 this year.
Yeah, that wakes you up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems that our health care is getting worse as I get older. And here we're supposed to be the greatest nation on the face of this earth with great health care, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if you know the story, and I won't go through the whole thing, but we lost my mother-in-law last year, and it was due to insurance saying we're done and hospitals saying you have to leave, and coding was wrong, and it's pathetic. It's pathetic. I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be there, but it seems like that's where we're headed. The older you get, the less likely you're going to get the health care you need.
We didn't set our system up well enough to prepare for taking care of people in chronic conditions to get them the kind of care they needed before they actually got sick and more complicated and more complicated. We treated sickness. We didn't treat health. And I would argue that we have lots of dollars in the system, but the dollars aren't distributed according to preventing health or preventing sickness and promoting health, and then leaving a surplus number of dollars to help those people that are in crisis make that transition. I think another thing that we don't do well in the healthcare system, and we heard terms about death panels and things like that. We aren't as transparent as we need to be with patients that have, frankly, conditions that there's not much hope. That they're not going to live, and they have to start talking about quality of life for themselves. Totally up to the patient. But we're not good at end of life. And we will go to extraordinary means to save people that have very, very, poor quality of life.
Yeah.
And we need, as a country, to talk about that. And frankly, I think we can talk about that in a very faith-based way. And people have choice, and if they want to go to the most extreme measures, allow them to be able to do that. But on the other hand, they need to know what the consequences are, and if that's going to add a week to my life, or is that going to add 2 weeks to my life? Am I going to feel miserable for it, or what?
Yeah. I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't gotten the C word mentioned in my life from my doctor, or prostate itch, all those things that happen to men. But I have a great faith in my Savior Jesus.
Amen.
And when he wants to take me home. Well, there's that school of thought that says, yeah, but we have all this medical science that God has created to keep you alive. I don't believe that a man can keep me alive 1 second longer than God wants me to. Either he's sovereign or he's not. Well, and I'm ready to go when he wants me to go.
The good Lord can step in, and he gives talent to physicians and gives them the hands that sometimes their intervention is there for a reason. But when it is your time to go, it is your time to go.
I want to go. I just want to go. And I hope, Ed, you're sitting in your office one morning or one afternoon, and Tom Coates calls you and says, well, we lost Mac last night. Oh, I didn't know he was sick. Well, he wasn't. The good Lord just took him home. CJ put him to bed. I go to bed, and CJ comes down in the morning, and I'm gone. That's what could be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Well, many wish for that.
Iowa caucus is around the corner. If you're willing to make some predictions or some guesstimates, what do you think is going to happen on the Democratic side? I mean, is Bernie Sanders really going to smoke Hillary again?
I think he will.
Really?
Yeah.
But he's an idiot.
Well, he may be, but that idiot has the hearts and minds of the youth and a lot of other people out there that he can deliver. And, it's an interesting thing. There are times in American history that people win not because you're voting for somebody, but you're voting against someone else.
Yes.
And he has that factor going for
him. Yeah, the
it.
Hillary dislike is almost as high as her like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more and more comes out. I don't know if you heard today, but former Senator Leahy said that he was told by a friend of his inside the FBI that they were ready to indict Hillary. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't believe anything that's on the internet anymore, hardly.
That was Tom DeLay.
Tom DeLay, okay.
There's a big difference between those two.
Okay, well, that's why I've got Frank. He's usually right. I mean, if she gets indicted, that's got to be it, right? We certainly can't at that point think she could be a good president.
Well, I mean, let's if you play a scenario out like that, basically they go into convention. The convention is quite disruptive. You have many of the people within the Democratic Party saying this isn't going to work. You could see nominations made from the floor, which you can do that.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't at all be out of probability that Vice President Biden get nominated from the floor and get the nomination.
Yeah, yeah. So who do you think is going to win in Iowa on the Republican side?
Well, that's a real flip of the coin today. I would say that it will be Trump, Cruz, and a flip of if there's going to be a surprise, in my opinion, the surprise will be Ben Carson, because he's worked basically the grassroots real hard up in
for a long time.
Yeah, northwest Iowa, northern Iowa. It could be Rubio if it's not Carson.
Yeah,
I think there's certainly 3 tickets coming out of Iowa, if not 4. But when you get to New Hampshire, you got to consider Governor Christie will be in play. John Kasich is coming on very strong in New Hampshire. Then we go down to South Carolina. Carson is playing strong there. But after that, the money begins to run low.
Ed, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Mac.
Chris Roloff's going to come in and give us an update on a Twitter battle between our own Bob Vanderplatz and Donald Trump. Wait till you hear this. Thank you, sir.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios,
Welcome back. 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at the top of the hour, followed by Hank Hanegraaff. The Bible Answer Man program starts at 5 o'clock. If you've got a biblical question, a question about the Bible, you want to know what the Bible has to say about anything, I suggest you call him at 1-888-ASK-HANK. I should do the numbers for you to find out what that is, but 1-888-ASK-HANK. But hey, Mac promoted this, and it's true. Twitter has gone all Twitter. Is that redundant? I think it is. But Donald Trump has come out and today was bashing our very own Bob Vanderplots. Now, I say that very own as though, I don't know, he's an Iowan. He's an evangelical. He's a brother in Christ. And Donald Trump came out and he said this: why doesn't phony Bob Vanderplots tell his followers all the times he's asked asked for him and his family to stay at hotels without paying? That's what Trump started slamming Bob Vanderplots with. Bob Vanderplots replied by saying, Donald Trump, still consider you a friend, and you still can't have my endorsement. My friendship isn't phony. And then on Twitter, Mac, Trump went on to say this on Twitter about...
All today?
This is all today. This is, by the way, was reported by Jennifer Jacobs, the Des Moines Register. She wrote a great story on this. She's got the background on it, did a fantastic job, because she weighed in on Twitter as well. Because here's the accusation that Trump also made against Bob Vanderplots. He said that Bob Vanderplots begged Trump to do an event while asking the organizers at that event for $100,000. He's a bad guy. That's what Trump said about Bob.
Say that again?
Trump tweeted, quote, Bob Vanderplots begged me to do an event while asking organizers for $100,000 for himself. He's a bad guy. That Trump called Bob Vanderplots a bad guy for bringing Trump in. Suppose this is Trump is claiming bringing him in, and then Bob was soliciting funds from people, which is not the case at all. Jennifer Jacobs actually weighed in on that. The backstory about this is, and I apologize, I'm new to Iowa, so I don't say this gentleman's name right, but Steve, last name B-R-U-E-R-E of People's Company. Baru, maybe? Is that how you say? I don't know the gentleman.
I think it's Steve Baru.
Well, anyway, Jennifer wrote here, the backstory is that in late 2014, Bob Vanderplots suggested that a good way for Trump to meet Iowans would be for him to come to an annual real estate conference hosted by Steve of People's Company. Trump did, in fact, come in January of 2015, and in a sit-down interview with the Des Moines Register at a dinner, Steve of People's Company hosted in West Des Moines, Trump said he regretted that he hadn't run himself in 2012 and that he was certain that he would have won. Trump charged, how did you say his last name? Baru, money to appear at this dinner. Trump charged Baru $100,000 to have Trump at this dinner. Bob Vanderplots got nothing. There were no funds raised for Vanderplots.
Did Baru pay it?
Yeah, he did. It was confirmed by the Jennifer confirmed it with the records.
Okay. Yeah.
She confirmed it that Trump was paid by People's. Okay, she said here, People's officially confirmed to the Register that the company paid Trump $100,000. Look, the fact of the matter is, Steve Deace was on CNN today. Bob was mentioned. A lot of talk about Ted Cruz and Trump are running neck and neck. And Trump is just throwing junk at anybody and everybody that's standing up with Ted Cruz. And here he is slamming Bob Vanderplots for no good reason.
Frank?
Well, this is becoming blood sport.
Turn your mic up just a little.
This is becoming blood sport here with Trump, and it reminds me a little bit of when they tried to impeach Nixon. Nixon said he wasn't going to go quietly, and if they tried to impeach him, he would out all the dirty deeds of all the politicians, and he had access to J. Edgar Hoover's FBI files, et cetera, et cetera. He was going to out the dirty secrets of all the presidents who preceded him, before him. And Trump is basically going to have a scorched earth policy. Whoever comes up against him, he's going to hit him with both barrels. So I don't know what you're going to do with him other than try to play nice, because you're going to get blasted with both barrels.
Well, in this article, Bob Vanderplots told the Des Moines Register that the latest public Twitter spat offers yet another example of how quickly Trump can turn on people. Trump lavishes praise until the person says or does something he doesn't like, and then he badmouths them, including badmouthing NBC's Chuck Todd, Fox News' Megyn Kelly, pollster Frank Lutz, and the Iowa voters Trump called stupid when his poll numbers slipped, said Bob Vanderplots to the Des Moines Register. And look, we know Donald Trump was on with Jimmy Fallon, and he admitted, and I praised him for it, he admitted for having a fault. He admitted for having this fault. For being the kind of guy that holds a long grudge. That when he gets
a resentment.
A resentment.
He doesn't understand how to forgive.
Because he's never been forgiven.
Right.
That's why, as Christians, why do we make such a big deal out of asking for forgiveness? Because until you can receive forgiveness for sin that you have done against the Almighty God, which is the greatest sin that you could ever commit, until you've done that, you don't know how to extend that forgiveness to other people. In fact, you don't want to. But anyway, I just found this to be absolutely hilarious, childish. On Twitter, of all places, I can just see Donald Trump typing away on his little cell phone, on his little smartphone, saying these random things, these angry little spouts, trying to knock Bob down, which is just seems in poor taste.
Well,
and Bob did a great job. You can look on Twitter all the stuff how Bob responded. He was very kind. Responded just. The only thing he said was that was not true. He made a false accusation and that wasn't true. But
what's interesting about this is I can absolutely crawl into Donald Trump's skin and understand what he's doing because I was just like this. I was a guy who held resentments.
Yeah.
And I had a feces list. And if you got on it, you better be careful. And it is because I did not have forgiveness from Jesus. I didn't feel his forgiveness because I didn't have a relationship with him. God was the horrible God of wrath from the Old Testament, the previous Testament, the First Testament. That's what Donald Trump needs. And I think if Donald Trump could get that, he might be one of the greatest presidents ever. But what's the risk? The risk is that we have a bully like this in the White House?
A bully. That's right. The worst kind of bullies that basically says he's a rich bully. So his money he thinks can buy whatever he wants.
But his kids turned out wonderful. Well,
I don't know. And I was telling my wife just the other night, Trump is a nice guy. I think Trump could spit in your face and make you feel good about it.
All right. We will see you tomorrow. Luke Tim will be our guest. And we'll be talking about theology. Thanks for praying with us in the first hour. I hope that helped you. It really cleansed me. It blessed me, and I appreciate you being a part of that. Until we see each other again, remember, tonight, like Donald Trump needs to do, you need to forgive those people who have wronged you. Because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.